answer that question for you and more. My name is Gloria Harwell. I'm the Manager of Business Development, Training, and Outreach in the Workforce Division for Career Advancement here at Metropolitan Community College. Try to say that real fast. It's a lot of vowels and consonants. That was good. I welcome you all today. I'm so glad you're here. And also for those who are online as well, welcome, greetings, and so forth. Myself and Vanessa Martinez Hernandez, are hosting this event. And without further ado, I'm going to let her introduce herself, what her role is, as well as give you some background on the Work Ready communities.
Yeah, hi everyone. Vanessa Martinez Hernandez, and I am with Heartland Workforce Solutions. And so you're probably wondering why I'm here, since we're at Metropolitan Community College. And a couple of years ago, like in 2015, we were awarded a grant from the state of Omaha. And with that grant, we were able to partner with Metropolitan Community College and offer what is called the National Career Readiness Certification. And so that is a framework designed by ACT, and it helps us become a work-ready community. So we were actually certified to become a work-ready community in 2019. So currently we are in a maintenance phase, and with COVID, much like lots of other things, we were put on pause. But now that we're getting back to work and things are returning to what they were pre-pandemic, we wanted to take the time to engage some of the businesses who helped us become Work-Ready Community Certified. And so all of you are here because at one point in time, somebody from your organization or your business signed up to support this initiative. And so we want to invite you back and help you understand what that means in case you forgot. And so thank you so much. It's nice to meet and see all of you here. And we hope that you find this information useful. And Tammy is going to take it away.
No, I'm next. That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Vanessa. Before we get started with the rest of the introductions, I want to acknowledge some people that are in the room and some people that are helping us today. We have the Associate Vice President of Community and Workforce Education, Mr. Gary Gerard, here with us. We have Mr. Sam Dixon, our workforce trainers here. If you want to raise your hand. We have Kristen Ingram, who's one of our business management professionals. And again, I'm Gloria Harwell, the Manager of Business Development, Training, and Outreach. My job is to connect with businesses like yourself and let you know about the programs and products and services we have here at Metro and the Workforce Division. We have a training program that can be specially designed for you. Sam Dixon, as a workforce trainer, is the person you would see to get those programs designed for your company. We also do a lot of upskilling and workforce training for new employees and people in the community. So if you have hiring needs, we will work with those individuals to give them customer service training, interview training, teach them the soft skills that it takes to maintain a position on the job to get them ready for the workforce. And she's not in the room, but I want to acknowledge Lindsay Gibbs. She's on the Zoom with us, and she's helping to manage the chat. Lindsay Gibbs is the Manager of Career Placement here in the Workforce Division. Wave to the camera, there she is. Thanks a lot, Lindsay, for your help. Now, I want to talk about our guest speaker. I want to give you just a little bit of information about her. Her name is Tammy Green. You probably saw it on your agenda, the little bio that was put together there. She's the Director of Workforce and IT Innovation for Career Skills. Tammy is also the Director of Adult Education here at Metro. Tammy, since you're Director of 2 departments, does that mean you get 2 paychecks or?
No.
No, you get. Darn, I was going to change my career path plan.
It's a good place to be.
Very good. For those of you who don't know, Tammy represented MCC in helping to get work-ready communities designated in Douglas County. So we owe a thank you to her for that part. And that's the reason why we're all here. Tammy is very passionate about students and about working in the community. She works very hard to promote education for those underprivileged in the community and taking people from the poverty level to a sustainable workforce, okay? She promotes the High 3 H3, which is highly skilled, high wage and high demand jobs. Tammy also has been a career educator and administrator for over 20 years. She's a very neat lady and she is my boss. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Tammy Green. Let's give her a hand.
Thanks, Gloria. So one of the cool things about Gloria is that when she gets a task and she has to do something, she does it to the T. So this is what I thought was going to be, a chill, informal conversation. Luckily, we have Gloria to keep us in line so that it's actually an opportunity to really kind of normalize and talk a little bit about the partnerships and just kind of do a quick review. So one of the things with Work Ready Communities and the Heartland Work Ready Communities initiative is really the passion behind all of this effort is actually activating partnerships. So some of our most important partnerships are obviously between Metropolitan Community College and Heartland Workforce Solutions. Heartland Workforce Solutions, I'm sure most of you know this, but if you don't, it's a nonprofit organization that was made up of agencies from both private and public sectors, dedicated to expanding employment opportunities for people in our community. In our community, they manage WIOA services, which is a federal funding that is coming down through the federal government. They manage the Title I components, and they oversee that through contracts. Here at Metro Community College, we actually manage the Title II, which is the adult education component of it. So it really is a natural partnership for us to work together. The other piece of that is training. Training is a main focus for both Heartland Workforce Solutions, but it's also a focus, of course, for MCC, because that's what we do. That's our bread and butter, what we do every day. And one of the things that we do at MCC is we want to ensure that we're delivering relevant education to our students and also for our business partners. That's one of the key components of what we do is that relevant education. So I like to say one of the things that we do really well is we flip education on its head. We like to start with the end in mind. That's why we work closely with all of you, all of our business partners and our community partners, so that when people come out of our educational programs, they're either moving into your jobs or they are using during an apprenticeship or an earn and learn model that helps people they're employed while they're going through our programs. In fact, most of our student population is employed at the same time they're getting their education or their degree. What that means for you as a business partner is that they're work ready, or our goal is to have them work ready, and they're a value asset to your team, to the community, and also to themselves, because now they're working and they're actively engaged in the work environment. And ideally, it's in the profession that they're getting their advanced training and education in. So that's our partnership between Heartland Workforce Solutions and Metropolitan Community College. But the other piece that is pretty valuable in this is that we have dual clientele in our partnership. Job seekers are our dual clientele. Businesses, all of you, actually one of the things that started the conversation in this partnership was that a lot of times you are the same folks that are sitting on our advisory councils, and the conversations you're having with us are similar to the conversations you're having at Heartland Workforce Solutions with their business teams. And so by uniting some of our efforts and start talking about our dual clientele, we can start to streamline our workforce ecosystem that we're doing. And that's what the Work Ready Communities Initiative really does. It's helping us to establish that ecosystem. So a couple of things, this is just some background information that helped to develop our initial work that we did with the Work Ready Communities was funding. So one of our focuses was to take that conversation of money off the table so that we could really actually have an opportunity to expand and develop that ecosystem. And really it's a pathway that we've developed. So our goal is to make sure that when people are coming through our training training programs, there will be immediately into jobs review. And we want to make sure that when they're moving into those jobs, they're going to be employees that are going to be around in 6 months to a year or longer, that they are going to be well trained and ready to confront running at your jobs, and that you guys are finding some value in being part of the ecosystem. So one of the things that has happened since we did our first launch of Work Ready Communities was we've really kind of revolutionized our ecosystem. So right now, this is just some things to know. One, for high barrier populations, we're at a 94% retention rate. And that is 6 months post-hire. Now, the definition for most of us when it comes to high barrier, those are typically individuals that have had issues with employment success in the past. These are individuals that typically are in low wage or low skill positions looking to move up. These are individuals who are coming through our adult education program and they have English language proficiency areas that they need to work on. There are people who are seeking their GED. A lot of them, or they're coming from assistance programs in our community. You know, some really valuable information to know is in our community, we have one of the hardest working communities in the nation. One of the nice things to have that conversation about for Nebraska compared to other states is that really our workforce is hardworking. You see that in the low unemployment rate. And so it really does provide some stability for this type of an ecosystem. The other thing that I think is important to know too is when we're focusing on our partnerships, we didn't focus just on getting people jobs, but we focused on making sure that they were moving into sustainable wages and jobs that would pay a livable wage. So, for example, one of the things, so if you look at what for a single person, the living wage is $14.93 per hour here for Douglas County. And our average wage is $19.41 an hour when people are coming through. And so one of the reasons that our partnership is so strong is because it builds that sustainability. And now people are moving out of what we would consider poverty situations. They're now moving into sustainable wages.
Has that number increased in the last year? We've seen it go up since this target market goes.
So it is, yes, going up in some industries. In other industries, it's not really moving, but in some industries, it absolutely is. Healthcare is one of those industries that it is really shifting, especially in what was typically low-wage jobs like CNA, med positions. That's really starting to shift a lot. Other industries, it just is based on the industry. Some industries have been ahead of this curve, and so they've been, you know, paying well above that minimum wage or well above that minimum wage for a long, long time, and so they're not really shifting. But it depends upon the industry. But yeah, we're seeing a shift in that. Now, the living wage, this component, it'll be interesting to see where that sits in a year, because MIT is the one who really does a great job of producing that living wage calculator. And they do it for every county throughout the entire nation. So I put that link on there so you can go and you can see what the living wage is for the area. That is also a good guide for when we're developing programs, right? We understand that the entire workforce ecosystem is important and that everybody, all of our business partners have a place, right? Even if it's at that minimum wage marker, but you don't really need a training program from Metro Community College to go into a minimum wage position. But where our training is really powerful is when we connect it to employment and training, and that's what makes that marker into the average wage. The other thing to consider here is that's the average. So we've got some that are much, much higher than that. And then we've got some that are teetering a little bit over the $14 an hour mark. So one of the things I do want to make sure everybody knows is kind of what we're doing is we're talking about re-engaging and with our business partners post-COVID. So we have achieved in our community that designation of a work-ready community. So the ecosystem is built. And so now what we're talking about is let's get engaged and let's activate partnerships. During COVID, MCC was really a thought leader, and we were also a main driver in the education to employment for 3,271 individuals in the community. And so we want to expand that partnership a little bit more. And so really we had over 3,000 students go through training to employment opportunities. We want to continue that effort, and we want to re-engage with all of you to make sure that we're continuing this. So in 2019, that's when our community did all of the hard work, and that's when we were designated as a work-ready community. And now we're in our continuation. And here's where it started. The mayor did a proclamation for us to kick off this initiative, and she continues to support the initiative in some really strong, important ways. So one of the things that I think is important to know is they're a big supporter of the Job Center. One of the things that started this initiative was called the Career Readiness to Eliminate Disparities. So what that meant, and this is why it's so powerful for you, is that it was really focused on areas in our community. So we have traditionally always been able to brag about our unemployment rate here in Nebraska, even in Douglas County. But there are pockets in our community that are opportunities, zip codes that don't have that exact same story to tell. In fact, they have traditionally been high unemployment, low wage, high poverty areas. Now, what we found by working with people in those and targeting our services in those communities is that, guess what, they're hardworking. They just need a support system so that they can actually engage in the training programs and then move into employment opportunities. So that's where our numbers really start to make a difference. And so the funding that came from the city of Omaha has really been transformational in helping to support the entire ecosystem, and it continues to support that ecosystem. And there's other funding sources as well that are now working to help be a benefit to you. So for the most part, students do not have to, especially if they're in opportunity zip codes, they usually do not have to come with their own out-of-pocket money to pay for the programs. There's a series of ways that we do that. Some of that is through sponsorships with business partners like you, where a business partner will sponsor students to go through a training program. They'll give them release time. We've developed and worked with them to develop that training program, and then when they're done, there's another immediate wage increase to help support those efforts. Another area is through scholarships. Scholarships in the way of supporting the career scholarship, which is for any student that's new to MCC. They can receive up to $5,000 to help pay for that training program. Other funding sources came through the federal government to help support those efforts. And then we also have a gap assistance program that helps pay for those programs. Also, it helps leverage resources to pay for career coaching, the business engagement folks, and all of the people that are here really to wrap around both training and work with you closely to move people into employment. Any questions? Nope. Oh, I got you guys stumped now. Or I got you where I want you. So one of the things, just as a refresher, that helps us kind of reframe why what we're doing in our community is so different is we really start to address skills gaps, and we start to address them in really revolutionary ways. So when we're looking at skills gaps, there's actually several layers to that. One of those is obviously academia, right? We use process assessments to understand what grade level a person is at, their reading, math, all those kinds of things. That's important. But then we also use the National Career Readiness Certification. That National Career Readiness certification is actually been one of the most powerful tools in linking a person's skill sets to the jobs that you have open. So there's a couple of ways that we do this. One of those is we will analyze your positions to make sure that the alignment is right. The other piece of it is what this offers is it helps all of our career coaches understand a proficiency level or actually a person's ability to take the acronyms they know and apply it to the world of work. Very simple. If you've ever heard me talk about this, in simple terms, what it is, and coming from the union, we see this all the time, is a person's ability to understand how to have corrections, right? And then let's say they're getting ready to bake a cake, right? Well, do they have the knowledge? And they have to bake the cake, it calls for 3/4 of a cup, they don't have 3/4 of a cup. Have they understood that you can take 1/4 of a cup 3 times to get that 3/4 of a cup? And they're not stumped and they're not ready to leave the workforce because they don't understand that they can do that. So what we analyze is also a person's ability to do just that. How does that relate to your jobs? How do you align people to your jobs? And what that means is 94% retention rate. So what happens is that we are now moving people in. The other piece of it, when taking the skills-based approach, is we're really starting to do a weed in effect and not a weed out approach, which is really, really different because our coaches and our team really does understand and believe that there is a place in the workforce ecosystem for everybody, and that we can find the right fit, and we can also train for that fit, especially if we have the knowledge of where a person's at. So that's where we use several different elements. We'll use either direct instruction, technical instruction. Sometimes it's basic skills that we'll address, and then we also use the WorkKeys program to do that. And for some of you who have been with us, like Brendan's been with us since the start of this is all almost repetitive because he knows this really, really well. But this may be brand new for those of you who haven't been with us since the start of the initiative and since we started working on this. The credential is awarded in 4 levels. And it really focuses on problem solving, critical thinking, and the benefit to you is it really starts to strengthen and shorten your cost of a rehire. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time also working, and a lot of you are from HR, so you get it. You know that every time you lose an employee, and then you go through the process of hiring a new employee, training that new employee, and then having them leave, that adds up to a lot of money. And so that cost of a rehire, what we do is we get to the heart and soul of that so that it improves your retention. Because then what happens is that as a business, you can start looking at ways that you can repurpose funds, repurpose training dollars, use those funds to pay for sponsorships for students, which tends to be a great resource. Any questions? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get to kind of the nitty-gritty of how everything works. So our career advancement program and the pipeline that we develop really starts through five simple steps. The first one is actually starts before we actually get to the first one, and that is the development of the programs. That's where Sam comes in. That's where all of you come in, because we really do start to have those conversations about what are training programs that are relevant. Are they H3? Are they high wage? Are they high skill? Are they high demand? Because all of us have positions that are just what we would consider just, entry level, walk off the street. You can come into these programs. We can provide training. We all have those. What we're wanting to target are those ones that are higher skill, higher wage, and higher demand. The ones that are harder for you to fill. So a good example of that is in manufacturing. Those maintenance positions, right? Those folks that fix all of the equipment that is in those that are in the plants. Those positions are the people who are doing them, been doing them for a long time, and they're starting to leave. Well, now what we're doing is developing training programs to now start training people who to replace those people who are leaving the workforce. But honestly, we had to do it in really creative ways. For a long time, the conversation was, well, we put it out there, we did our typical hiring practices, we're just not getting the candidates. And if we do get a candidate, there's a skills issue with that candidate, right? They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the technical skills to do this very, very precise job that we need them to do. Well, by engaging with each other, having these conversations, starting with the training programs, starting with the partnerships, then what we do is we basically start to develop and train people to move into those hard to fill positions. And the important thing is they're also on the high wage end of the spectrum, right? So some of our coolest programs are kind of an apprenticeship model or a learn and learn model, right? They start in, they're in a training program, they're at a very basic level one, and then they start out, they're paid $17 to $18 an hour, and then they start going through a year-long training program. Well, in that year-long training program, then what happens is they start to increase their wages as they advance in their knowledge, and then at the conclusion of the program, you now have a cohort of 10 individuals now ready to move into those positions that are designed really handpicked and designed for you. And the cool thing is in this partnership, we have these pathways developed for all the industries. So manufacturing, construction, IT, healthcare, all of those components, business, customer service. So we really worked hard at making sure that there's a pathway for everybody. And we have a lead in, not a lead out approach. Then in our process, what we do is we start to work with you, with Heartland Workforce Solutions, and all of the partners, and all of our dual clientele to get the word out. And we like to start and identify 20 to 25 potential candidates for the positions in the training programs. They go through, and we only do the basic needs. They meet with a career coach, and then they start working through the system. They do some WorkKeys, they do some certifications, they do the National Career Readiness certification. So if you're part of this effort already, that means that your business has done one of two things. They've either signed on to recognize the NCRC, so when a student comes through and that's on their resume, you as an HR person recognizes what that is. The other piece of it is or the other part is you could use it for your hiring practices. And so we do have a couple of business partners that use the National Career Readiness certification as a tool for employment. So we have already gone through, we've done the job skill alignment, there's a validity report that HR has, and then they know for those specific positions what level a person needs to be at for the NCRC. And then they go through the training program, the person is employed, and then our team of career coaches end up following that person for 6 months after they're both hired. Now, did that get anybody to the point where they have lots of questions?
So the program is essentially 12 months, specifically 12 months in rigid or?
It varies upon the needs of the industry, the job, and the partnership. So we have some programs that are year long. We have both non-credit and credit certification programs and credit training programs. So, for example, right now we have an outstanding program, fiber optics, that's going on. One of the hot new jobs that's coming up in our community, especially with this new legislation that's been passed for infrastructure. There's a huge push for fiber optics to be built out. So there's two components of that, right? One is terminating the fiber. The other piece of that is actually digging the trenches and doing all the work that needs to happen to lay that. So that program is a short-term training program. both of those programs are short-term training programs, and that person immediately goes in. CDL is another training program. That one's a short-term training program. The maintenance, we actually call it industrial electrical training program. That's a year-long program. So it really depends upon the need of the business. It depends upon the training program that's being developed and based on that industry. CNAs is another one that is a short term. Although our customer experience program is just a year-long program with that business partner. So really, it's customized to meet the needs that you have. So, yeah. You are not locked into a specific pattern. It's very customizable. One of the things that happens too is, again, I spoke about that skills-based approach. There individuals who go through the program do career mapping. They also do basic computer certifications. Now, I left this in there where it says ACT Career 101. So for those of you who were with us before, when we first started, it was called ACT Career 101. It is now transitioned to WorkKeys. Work ethics certification, and also for our ESL and our GED students. So that's another avenue. MCC works with over 3,000 students who are limited English proficient or are working on getting their high school equivalency or their GED for our community. Well, these individuals are typically in low-wage jobs. What a great opportunity to capture those students who are now multilingual, because most of the time English is not a second language, it's usually the third or fourth language. So now you have a candidate who is not only trained to do a great job at your job, at whatever profession it is that they're going into, but now they also know multiple languages, which will help you reach your clients better and also help them to communicate with also their coworkers better. We talked about career coaching and the ACT WorkKeys curriculum. So this has transitioned, like I had said before, from the Career 101, it is transitioned over to the WorkKeys curriculum. A couple of things to know about it. The courses are delivered via a personalized mobile learning management system. So students get their own login, they do pre, they do post tests, and they progress, and then they get their own individualized education plan. So it's really streamlined to know what skill set the person has and what they may not have, and it helps automatically teach those skills. The other component that we have built in that has helped give a real value after we did it for Pfizer was the job skill alignment. And actually we've done almost 30 of these job alignments throughout the community, from everything from customer service, IT positions, manufacturing positions, to a multitude of business partners. And one of the things that we do for our job skill alignment is what we do is we go into your jobs and we'll analyze the job that is being done. We're able to align that to what skill sets the person actually needs to have. And then we just have to tailor or customize that to you and to what you need in your workforce. The other component of the job skill alignment that's interesting that I think is a value add, especially for HR, is the results of that is a solid validity report that HR can use to demonstrate that that solid alignment has been done. So. The other cool thing about it too is that that alignment is used for curriculum development, and I almost forgot to mention that. It helped design the prototype design degree program. So it's gone all the way from designing an entire degree program to also aid in short-term developing short-term training programs. So it really is a benefit. Any questions on that? No? So there is a bottom line impact to you. And we've talked about this throughout our entire meeting today. But one of those is employers need a reliable way to measure skills, and that's what our partnership allows you to have. It also identifies and invests in employees who can make real contributions to you and your jobs that are open. So right away, that's our goal. We don't want to send a group of people that you are going to spend 6 to 8 months training and developing only to lose them. What we want to do is make sure they're ready to hit the ground running. It also helps to find qualified workers for you. And there's a proven, verifiable means to determine an applicant's job skills. So unlike some customary or traditional ways of looking at employment, where you do, I don't know about you guys, but you're at MCC, you do post, you interview, you might have a short presentation or a short demonstration, but then you really are in some ways taking a risk on what that person knows and what they don't know. Well, by signing up and by incorporating this partnership in the NCRC, it helps you to understand what actual skills that person has. So it helps to solidify some of the guessing work that you may have when you're hiring. It helps to streamline the applicant screening process. This is not an idea where it completely eliminates the practices you're already doing. What we want to do is actually just do a +1, right? We want to expand it just a little bit further by developing the training to employment pathways that you have already developed. And then the other component of it, and this, I kind of glossed over it, but you know, I hear this a lot from business partners that we work with, is, you know, and HWS, Vanessa hears it a lot. One of the things we discuss soft skills, we just teach soft skills, right? How to show up for work on time. You know, don't come to your manufacturing job in fuzzy slippers. You need to wear hard boots. You know, what are those things? You need to be able to work in teams. You know, those soft skills. We just teach those, right? Well, what we found a lot of times is those skill sets can be taught. And so we do the Bring Your A Game curriculum, and it comes out in work ethic certification. So they are taught. Now, like Lindsay likes to say a bunch, we cannot guarantee you we can completely transform some of these work habits. But what we have actually found is that a lot of times retention issues may be really more related to what we have customarily called soft skills. What we have found is that a lot of the retention issues are really that mismatch in skill sets. So basically, it means that a person goes into a job and they're hired traditionally how we do it. And then what happens is that they realize they do not have the skill sets to do the job. So then what happens is your new employee is now not showing up for work on time because they don't want to admit to you that they really have no idea what you're talking about. And we see it all the time, right? Manufacturing is a good place. You know, when we started our first cohort with one of our partners, with Tyson, I got to tell you, those students did not know what a caliper was. They had no idea what that was or what it even meant on the job site. So if they had just been put into this program and immediately were expected to perform, they would be able to do it. And so that's when you start seeing those issues that we typically quantify as soft skill issues, but really it comes down to the income skill set before they went into the job. We want to stop that from happening. We want to give them the skill set, get them into their jobs, and revolutionize what this person is. And there's a couple of ways I touched base on this a little bit is how we integrate our education and training. So one of the things that we do this is by integrating education and training, and there's actually 4 components to this. The first component is workforce training. That's the career advancement career placement program. So we want to ensure that work ethic is covered, NCRC is done. The second piece of that is technical training. So if you can either just do the career placement program and that covers the front end, you know, the hireability and those, you know, those real solid, you know, bring your A game, NCRC, alignment, resume, customer service, all of that can go into, that's a very basic program. Or you can invest in these long-term training programs that integrate. And that's where the technical training comes in. And it really is customized, whether it's non-credit or credit, industry recognized certifications for what you guys do. We also put in an integrated basic education component. That is our IET instructors. So you have your technical instructor. We also embed an IET instructor in the classroom environment. That IET instructor and its integrated education training, that's a lot of words. So I just call it IET. So that IET instructor works with the technical instructor who's teaching the skills they need to know to address basic skills issues. They enjoy that. They teach students that, because remember, we can train everybody and we teach a lot of good people from various different demographics in our communities. But if we're really targeting and activating the high barrier, the marginalized in our community to get engaged in the skilled workforce, that takes a little bit more work and a little bit more finesse. And so that IET instructor works with the technical instructor to do the basic skills. Oh, wait a minute, you just talked about calipers. These students have no idea what caliper is. So let's actually teach it. The other component of it is that they're teaching students that have typically never come to a college campus for training, what it means if it's a credit program, what it means to be here, what does the training programs look like, will there be homework, do you need to do homework, how to take notes, so that IET instructor make sure that the student is not only in the program, but they're retained through the program. And then the most important component, or one of the most important components, also you guys, we do not want to train a whole pile of people so that they can go out and we can do others. They will be trained 60,000 people in the Omaha area, but only 10,000 of them got jobs. That is not NCC's story, and nor do we ever want that to be our story. So we work so closely with you guys, and that's part of the work that we can do. There are a few more business partners, and that is it. Question. Either I did a really, really good job and you guys know everything there is to know, or I put you to sleep and you're like, please release me from this. I don't know. But I can see and sense their smiles behind those masks, so I don't think I bored you.
I was working on it. I'm just trying to think of the best way to explain it. But so a lot of times what we see is we have people walking out the streets. They started the pre-apprentice or helper, if you will. They have no skills at all. Would this be a situation where we could possibly refer those individuals who are attempting to get into our apprenticeship program? Hey, if you do this, this would really set you up for success with your interview. Come next year when we do apprenticeship interviews.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then perhaps also maybe to take it a step further and prepare them almost to guarantee that they were to be accepted in the apprenticeship program.
Absolutely. And one of the programs that we have that's kind of a precursor to going into the sheet metal union is we have them work on creating a sheet metal program. And so that would be a perfect opportunity. And it was designed and created specifically to do that. Right. So that it almost helps guarantee that people would be accepted.
How long was that curriculum?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks. Okay, yeah, something like that would be perfect sliding into one of those positions. Yeah. And that was the other thing is we have so much turnover in those positions. And so I personally came from food service, but I knew that, my good looks were only going to last so long. And I needed some benefits. I couldn't afford, I had a couple of kids. Paying child support and stuff, I was getting killed. I knew the only way I was going to make the money that I needed to support my family was to find a union job. So I took a massive pay cut. And man, was I a fish out of water. But I had outstanding test skills, so they hired me right away. They knew that I was going to come apprentice. So basically got directly into the apprenticeship because I had all the skills. Then I wasn't showing up to work because I showed up just frustrated with everything I was doing, and so it would have really helped to, have a few classes to slide into that position as opposed to just diving right in. So I can really see something like that. And then we also got a lot of support out of the Department of Labor. Obviously, if you have a full 2-year associate's degree in something, that almost guarantees you a $20 job right off that, because the Department of Labor says that if you have these skills, we have to make them a second-year apprentice, which is perfect. That's fine. That's great. They still go through a full 5-year apprenticeship. So I guess I was just wondering how that verse, it sounds like it's there.
It is very diverse. And one of the neat things that we've started to see, and keep in mind, we're starting to just now watch this, but for professions that have typically been a hard to employ women into those industries like manufacturing and trucking. Well, we just ran our CDL program, and half of that class of 10 individuals was female. High performers, and a lot of it, what we're starting to look at is what being strategic about the support systems we put in place to help students get through these training programs. To start to do exactly what you were talking about, because what we're finding is exactly what you just said too. We're finding that this isn't that people don't have to show up.
Can you do it on yours?
They don't have the skill sets when they get there, and they're not going to tell you, I'm so excited that you hired me for this great opportunity. I know I'm going to be making $35 to $40 an hour when I'm done with it, but right now I am failing, and I don't want to admit to you that I don't have what it takes to succeed here.
I've been trying to preach that to our contractors that, if you have issues with people not making to work, a lot of it has to do with employee engagement and their sense of self-worth on the job, because I didn't start really buckling down with my attendance until I started working on a crew with a bunch of guys, and 3 or 4 guys, as opposed to in our production facilities. When I was working on that crew with 3 or 4 guys, I'm like, man, how so work? They are going to have that all day without me, and that's when my sense of work really gets about it. And that's really what it has to do with it, I think, most of the time. So I definitely agree with all the soft skills and stuff.
So, as you all know, our industry's going through some things right now, but they have up until February right now to build their students. So we don't hire drivers per se, but they still are very beneficial to have their CDL. So they have until February before it goes up thousands of dollars to build their CDL. So as an industry, not just us, because the rest of the two are trying to figure out who's going to put the bill or going to bring our own instructors. And I've spoken with different colleges and things like that. I just want to figure it out as well. My question is, it would be most beneficial to add CDL onto diesel technology because they need them. They don't have to have them, no, but we need them more for it. So other companies, and we need drivers to pull them in and out of Vegas, pick them up off the road, test drive them, things like that. So instead, we can have our current employees, we can send them out to great for the CDL license. They're going to start kids that are graduating next summer, next spring. They're going to have to put the bill, or the company's going to have to, it's thousands of dollars. We can offer this next talk before you need training. We brought in trainers. We have our own training program as well. But that's so much money. And so we're just trying to see if there's any way to the actual diesel program to incorporate that CDL. Yes, it's only 4 to 6 weeks, which if you just added, in my thinking, if you just added on an hour or so, a day or a week, you can incorporate.
And it is currently a major component of the diesel tech program in the MCC. Okay. So that component, what we're finding though, is a lot of times, once a person gets their CDL, then there's not that, without support from a business, there's not a real push for them to move on in towards that diesel tech stuff, right? There's just, unless it's in partnership with the business, right? So I think that's where, again, that partnership is so important, because then the work that and the support that comes from Heartland Workforce Solutions, other training programs and training opportunities and funding sources can be brought into the conversation, sponsorships from you guys for that advance. Because I can tell you, of the individuals who are going through the CDL program, they're being snatched up for jobs that are.
Oh, they're hurting. Drivers are.
Oh, absolutely. And so for a lot of our students, without that business sponsorship, there's not the, oh, I want to continue my education. It's, yes, I've got this job, it's paying me a livable wage, I can put food on the table. So I think when we're continuing that conversation, I think it's a perfect opportunity to kind of talk about how do we streamline this, how do we leverage resources and our knowledge so that we can support each other and not necessarily duplicate, right? But support each other and leverage each other's resources. But absolutely it is. And I think with the partnership, we can get some of those students that are completing their CDL interested in the resource programs. So,
They will be employed.
absolutely. And that's a piece of it that we need that. And Kristen works closely with our CDL students. So the information that she can make sure they have. Any questions online? Okay. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to try to back it over to Vanessa.
Thank you, Tammy. Welcome, Itzel.
Sorry, I had to go.
Okay. Itzel, if you have a chance to get with Vanessa regarding the sign up for the AIM, she can take that from you before you go and take care of it for you. Good to see you. Okay, everyone, those online and those in the room, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate that. We are very, very excited about what the Work Ready community can do for you and your organization. Thank you to those who turned in your registration forms. To Vanessa, we'll get those processed right away and get that taken care of for you. Thank you to Stan at Heartland Workforce Solutions. Thank you to Lindsay, who is manning the chat, our manager of career placement, for helping out. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing your knowledge of Work Ready communities and your experience and your wealth of time working in education administration and with that initiative. We appreciate it. Thank you, Vanessa. Unless you had some departing words, I knew she didn't, that's why I said that. But thank you everybody for coming today. And if there are no more questions in the chat, Lindsay, did you see anything before we go in the chat or otherwise to make mention of? Are we good? Very good. Well, that ends our session right on time. We'll take some time here in the room afterwards to do a little mingling. If anybody needs any more refreshments or anything, we'll be happy to supply that. To those online, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Okay.